I'll just have my backup like from a different device. In case I lost
Okay.
I can join from my mobile data.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you ready to go? So then we can just start.
I'm gonna share my screen.
Okay.
So I don't know, the weather is little gloomy today. So power might,
Yes.
there might be power problems. So
Okay.
I always have a backup connection on my mobile phone, but I might request you to share the screen if necessary, just in case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think they're ready to go then in that case.
Yes.
Okay. So very good morning to all. My name is Architect Tushar Mandal, and I welcome you all to webinar number 32 in the Every Friday webinar series, a platform for young minds to express their ideas. Today's webinar will be discussing visual pollution in an Indian urbanscape and will be presented by Mr. Lijith. So before introducing the speaker for today, I would like to honor Architect Premendra Raj Mehta, who is the mentor of us. He was also the previous president of the Council of Architects. I think we also have with us Architect Prakriti Mehta, who is also another supervisor for the school. I welcome both of you, sir. Sir, if you could just say a few words to just motivate us today morning. Sir? Sir, you muted.
Sorry. So
Yes.
thanks, Tushar. Extremely warm welcome I extend to all of you, particularly to the speaker of the day. And he brings in a new dimension in our discussion today, bringing in his experience of design and particularly in the context of a place which is very, very endowed by nature. We are almost, we have crossed 30 such seminars. And this we have been pursuing, and Tushar has been hosting this program now almost more than 6 months. And the whole idea is that we get young minds to share their thoughts, young minds to pursue their ideas, evolve them, carry them forward. And Periyar School, who sponsored this initiative, is committed to develop these, allow these to happen, and connect you to the right forums which may be appropriate for pursuing your idea. I'm extremely happy that the participation has been extremely good. We have had people from diverse fields, touches human improvement in human habitat coming from, because architecture profession, every others are, whatever aesthetics, you name a field, it has a direct connection with human habitation, and architecture tends to encompass all together and let all such knowledges flourish and help human habitat to be a more peaceful, happier situation. So I welcome the speaker once again, and all the invitees and all the people who have come in to participate, and encourage them, all of them, to share their ideas here every Friday, get connected with Tushar, and I think we'll carry it forward. Thank you, and very warm welcome once again.
Thank you so much, sir. So now I will introduce the speaker for today's webinar. Lijith is a Kerala-based graphic designer, illustrator, and architect, currently pursuing his master's in graphic design at the National Institute of Design, Ahmedabad. He completed his PRs from the College of Engineering, Trivandrum. Lijith believes design can add value to society, empower the community, and enrich humanity. His design philosophy revolves around solutions which address the above mandates. So I would request Lijith to now begin with the presentation, and it's a request to all the participants to keep themselves muted for the duration of the presentation. Once Lijith's talk is over, we will have the time for, and we will open the floor for discussion and questions and answers. Thank you. So Lijith, you can now begin with the presentation.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Tushar. Thank you, all of you. So it's really, I feel really privileged to be here on Periyar School of Architecture. And it's really inspiring that you have been conducting this for 6 months and has been the 36th episode. So it's really interesting. And so I will straight away start with my topic. So this is my subject, the visual pollution in urban spaces. So I will start with a quote. Visual pollution is more poisonous than any other pollution because it kills the soul. This is a quote by an Austrian visual artist and an architect, Renstrik Sanner. And I will start with this quote and just keep in mind how important is the visuals around us when it comes to the living spaces, urban spaces, wherever we are living in. So I will just go through a overview of the project, what I have done. So these are the 6 different stages of this project. So visual pollution is our topic, obviously. I'll be introducing visual pollution in further detail in the coming slides. So first thing was setting up the overall context. And then I reached out to the primary data collection and secondary research and all the stuff. And after this stage of data collection, the next stage was converging, the limiting and defining of the proper study area where I'm going to intervene and all those things. And based on the thorough study, I had to develop the concept or the strategies for the problem solving stage. And after that, I came up with a visual analysis and visual concept ideations. So based on which I have executed the final deliverables. So this is obviously a broader project, but for the time being and due to the other circumstantial limitations and all those things, I have limited the study area at multiple points, which I will be explaining you in detail. So what is visual pollution? Visual pollution is a term used to describe the compounded effect of disorder, excess, and clutter of various objects and graphics in urban spaces. So it can be garbage heaps, it can be dilapidated building facades, it can be this television wires, it can be this television antennas, and even the graphics of our streets, which we can see in this image. So for this project, obviously all these pollutants are rapidly increasing in our circumstances, and all these are equally important. But for this project, I have selected urban graphics, and I'm focusing further on the urban graphics aspect of our urban spaces and visual pollution. So my broader objective of this project was to research and analyze the whole urban graphic system and finding out the opportunities to improve the existing street graphic system. We know that whenever we talk about Indian cities, one of the first things which comes to our mind might be the chaotic streets, the hectic, the narrow streets which are covered with all this chaos and all those things. So the opportunities to improvise the existing street graphic system was my primary objective when I started with this project. The improvised system, ideally, according to me, should effectively address the issue of visual pollution and thereby enhance the urban spatial quality, which in turn will affect our living index and basically the livelihood, the quality of living in our urban spaces. And then at the same time, balance the requirements of all the stakeholders who are involved in the system. It's not just the government or the authorities. It's not just the citizens. It's also the stakeholders such as the shopkeepers, the urban dwellers, the shop owners, the building owners, architects, and all those people. So I wanted to balance the requirements of all these stakeholders at the same time and thereby improvise the urban spatial quality. So this was the whole context which I was introduced into the project. And then I primarily went through the impacts of visual pollution. So there were a lot of negative impacts, such as this negative and chaotic visual sometimes causes mental problems, not the mental problems, it affects our mental health, especially in kids. It reduces the decision-making power and all those things. And then when it comes to the traffic or the moving traffic. It sometimes causes distraction while driving, and it can result in accidents. Another one was eye fatigue, which is a health problem. And the distraction also ultimately affects in the less productivity of its dwellers. So visual pollution always causes severe health problems, which we are not really aware of. We are aware of the after effects of air pollution, soil pollution, and all those things, but till this stage, we have not considered visual pollution even as a pollution. So visual pollution causes severe health problems, which we are not still very much aware about. And then I started this whole project by conducting a photo walk. Along the Ahmedabad stretch. So this is pretty much close to NID, starting from one Paldi Junction. It's known as Paldi Junction, and the other node is known as Mahalakshmi Crossroad. So I conducted, it's almost 1 kilometer. I conducted a walk along this stretch, and I observed random things, whatever I felt as visually disturbing or visually interesting or whatever. I had all the observations noted down on this photo walk. So this was the foundation of my study, or this is where I started my study. And yeah, understanding the typologies based on that observations, I tried to classify things, because at this stage of photo work, it was a lot of information, a lot of things happening in our urban surroundings. I wanted to classify these things. I wanted to narrow down things. So this is done by understanding the typologies. So I tried to classify the overall graphic system based on the type of media devices, such as, is it a paper print, or is it a wall painted thing, or is it mounted on public amenities, or is it a cloth print? So as you can see over here, depending on the types of media devices being used, the surface in which it is mounted or whatever, I classified it into these 8 different things, such as huge hoardings is one, digital display is one, urban furniture, such as these devices which we use on our traffic, on our urban spaces, and then public amenities, signboards of shops, and all these things. Another classification which I did was based on the type of communication or the content which it holds. So one thing is public or government ads. Another thing can be political posters, and then public signages. And then we also have this self-advertising devices. So these are the classifications based on the types of communication or the type of content which is being communicated through these devices. And then I conducted a public survey. This was a basic survey, a primary survey, to understand people's perception about our urban spaces, the visual graphics of urban graphics, and people's perception about visual pollution. So most of them were not really aware about the term visual pollution and all those things. So they were sure that there is a need for the improvisation of our urban street system. So these are some of the questions, like, as you can see, about the role of outdoor advertisements in cities. Most of them responded that the outdoor advertisements are negatively affecting the quality of our cities. And number of outdoor advertisements, most of them opinion that it's too far, like it's very more, and we need to reduce the number of outdoor advertisements. And about the design quality of this existing urban graphics also, people had a mixed opinion in terms of design quality. When like 33% of people opinion that it needs to be improvised, 22% opinion that it is extremely of low quality and we need to improvise it. Famous. But at the same time, I could see that 40% of people opinion that the quality of the design quality of the streets is pretty much okay. It's okay kind of thing. It's moderate. Yeah, and those kind of things were there. And these are other data which I accumulated as part of the service. I'm not going into the each and every detail. So the ultimate insight was that majority believes that outdoor advertisements impact our street in a negative manner. Still, a considerable amount of people, those you can see on the gray, they had a neutral approach towards this. Then I started by analyzing the existing system in detail. AdVision AMC is a platform by Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation. This platform is almost in the same direction. They are trying to regulate this huge hoardings and huge advertisement boards in the Ahmedabad city. So they are basically a media license processing authority. So what they are doing is all the huge hoardings in the Ahmedabad city comes under their jurisdiction. So if you want to put an advertisement on that thing, it can only happen through this set of process. Like one agency will have to take it on lease, take the hoardings on lease, and they will have to lease it for another agency to put their advertisements. So this is how it happens. And this AdVision is an agency who is controlling this whole scenario. But they have no hold on small advertisements, this small A3 size printouts or political posters or self-advertisements and all those things. They doesn't have any role. They are mostly playing on the huge hoardings. So because of that, I could see that there are not so many huge hoardings which are polluting the city. Those are mostly strategically placed in the places where there is no traffic and less traffic areas on the alongside the highways. And so that area is almost solved, or they are still solving it. So after all this research, this is a summarizing stage. So these were the different types of advertisement devices or advertisements which I could identify. So there were self-advertising devices, there were commercial advertisings, there were political adverts, and there were government ads, and there were traffic signages. So, and I tried to understand how each of this category, what's happening to each of this category and what can be done. So the first one was self-advertising devices. And the second one, the commercial advertising devices. So in the self-advertising devices, there were no control at all. There were no proper guidelines. There were no regulating authorities or anything. And also when you see a total urban street or a total urban space, self-advertising devices are more in number. You can see a lot of self-advertising devices. When I say self-advertising devices, it means this name boards of shops or name boards of malls and all those things. So these are more in number rather than other small advertisements. And then obviously we have this commercial advertising devices, whereas we can see the posters by jewelers, posters by textile shops, even car automobiles, those kind of things are also there. And then political advertisements by the political parties. It's even worse during the election. And then government advertisings. Right now, this itself is becoming a topic of discussion. So among all these things, after analyzing the core insights from all these categories and the possible solutions and all those things, I decided to pursue, for the further stage of this project, I decided to start with the self-advertising devices. So for the rest of this project, I'll be talking about the self-advertising devices. I was limiting my study area into this particular aspect. Obviously, we'll have to address the rest of this, but it will come as a next stage or whatever. So for this project, for the time being, I have decided to pursue only on the self-advertising part, which is the name board part. So that's the stage of converging to focus only on the self-advertising signages. And again, I'm just making sure that why I choose self-advertising devices. The primary reason is they are more in number. They are found more in number in any given state of India. You can see that these are more in number. And obviously political posters becomes more in number when it comes to election time. And there are exceptions and all these things, but still on an average, if you see, these are mostly more in number and these are the most unaddressed part. Then I started by identifying the stakeholders. Primary stakeholder will be the general public or the urban dwellers who are the consumers again. And then this shop or business owners and urban authorities, designing agencies, printing agencies, and architects, planners, MNCs who sponsor boards. So these are all stakeholders, and the stakeholders are, it's a wider spectrum. So I started from one corner, who are our most primary stakeholders, that is the shop owners, the business owners or building owners. So I conducted another walk. I talked with almost all of the shopkeepers. So even though I have shown only 3 or 4 over here, I talked with almost every shop owners about their name board, about their self-advertising, how they have installed it, and what is their perception about it. would they like to improve it, or are they satisfied with it, or what they think as their function is. So I conducted again a walk and interviewed all these people. So there are people who are using sponsored billboards. As you can see this, there will be Pepsi's advertisement throughout the self-advertising box. And underneath that, there will be a small strip in which it will be written as Babu stores or whatever. So this is one type of self-advertisement which we can see throughout India. The problem with this sponsored self-advertisement is that it is common. It's same in any place. It's the same in Kerala. It's the same in Gujarat. So there will be a Pepsi advertisement going, maybe 2 feet by 4 feet or whatever. And underneath there will be a small strip. In Kerala, it might be Babu store. And when it comes to Gujarat, it might be some other store. But ultimately, the major visual remains the same. So it is kind of losing the uniqueness of the place. It's kind of losing the sense of the place or things like that. And also, I could find that this is acting at a loophole. Like government is not charging any tax for self-advertisement. But what's happening over here is it's not self-advertisement. The store is Babu store, but 90% of the self-advertisement board is held by a third-party agency. So here it's Pepsi's board is not actually self-advertisement. Self-advertisement should be the Babu store part, which is only holding 10 to 20%. So I decided to get rid of this sponsored billboards, which is basically acting on a loophole point of this whole system. And also this intervention can make our cities, can retain the uniqueness of our cities. So the graphic which is designed by a designer from Kerala will obviously be different from someone who designed, a local designer who designed it at Gujarat. So that uniqueness of the place needed to be retained. So I decided to get rid of all these MNC sponsored billboards. And another thing was hand painted name boards, which is almost declining nowadays. Like it's very, if you see in other parts of the country, in Kerala, Tamil Nadu and all the states, it's way less people. There are no hand painting artisans. But in Gujarat, it was comparatively prominent and still they are declining. There were people who will come to your shop and they will paint your shop name on the walls. They are really good calligraphic artists who are losing their profession. That was another problem associated with this thing. And then there are people who will go to a local designer, will ask them to design it. So they will give them a template or they will give them a standard design, print it out and place it. So these were different types of things happening, and I tried to understand the whole scenario. And then I also talked with an urban designer who's an architect. So their insight was how to make the intervention beneficial for all the stakeholders. So whenever I'm coming up with a restriction or whatever, it should address the requirements of all the stakeholders. It's not just the urban dwellers. It's not just the living quality of the space. It should also address the shopkeepers. It should also address the building owners. It should also address the politicians. So whoever is stakeholder, whoever comes as stakeholders in this scenario, their needs and requirements needs to be addressed. So that was one thing. And then this printing agencies, when I talked with this local printer and local designer, they are also kind of losing their opportunities because of this MNC sponsored boards. And I talked with them about the design, how they design this thing, what is the procedure and things like that as well. So yeah, so the core insights were identity of places is being replaced with globalized imageries. And local printing agencies, local designers, local calligraphic artists, local hand painters, they are all losing their opportunities. And at the same time, our urban spatial quality is losing its uniqueness and its standards. So my next thought process was how to make, if I'm coming up with a set of regulations or whatever, how can it be beneficial to all the parties? So then I referred to some case studies. So the first case study was in Clean City Law by Brazil in Sao Paulo state of Brazil. So they basically kind of prohibited all the name boards. After that, it was revealed that a lot of dilapidated buildings were, we could see that, which were mostly hidden by these hoardings and boards, that those came into the vicinity. And as you can see on this particular city corner, the city circle, city square. So over the time, how it emerged. So this was how it used to be. And then when it was covered by all these hoardings and name boards and all the stuff. And then again, when it was removed. So these architectural features started becoming more visible. And the place's architecture itself started contributing to the sense of the place. So that's what happened over there. And this is in Lucknow, Hazratganj. This again, the context was very heritage. The context was strong in terms of heritage. It's a heritage site. The building itself is almost all the buildings comes under this heritage listed properties. So there, what they did is they came up with the Urban Development Authority, whoever, they came up with strong restrictions that they can't use any colored boards. They can't use their own branding. So there were strong restriction over here. And the restriction was they can use only black boards, and they restricted the size and all those things. Right now, again, this architecture of the place became more evident, and the place retained its identity in terms of architecture. But if you see from other angle, it is kind of restricting the freedom of shopkeepers and shop owners. That's from another perspective. But it works here because it is a heritage context, and the context is very strong. It works here, but it might not be applicable for all other parts of India, where there is no strict or there is no such a strong heritage aspect. So this was one case study, and this is another like, it's not actually a law or something. It's just an installation kind of thing where they tried a designer who recreated the Tokyo's city imageries by he digitally did this. Like he removed all the adverts and started looking at the city, how it will look like if you remove all these graphics. So this is another movement, art movement, basically, as part of exhibition kind of a thing or whatever. Basically an art movement called as Delete. So here what they did is, over a span of 1 week or something, they covered all the billboards with yellow. This basically showed them how important the urban graphic system is. At the same time, how to what extent it is polluting the views. So it also revealed both sides of the coin. So after all these things, I started mapping things. So I mapped how different people perceives this name board, as in people who are the general mass crowd and the travelers in bus or cars or whoever is passing through the by vehicle. And then a local person who is pretty much familiar with this thing, to him it's different. To him, the name boards are the sense of place. But for a passenger who is passing through there, he's using the name board just to see what they are offering or just to see which street it is. So different people conceive it as in different methods. So I tried to illustrate that. I mapped out that. And then this is the process which I already explained, like 3 different methods in which name boards are being installed. One is this standard procedure in which you will go to a local designer. He will design it and print it for you. And then you will have to fix it on the shop and the name board is installed. Another thing is you will have to call a local artist or local artisan, hand painter basically. He'll come to your shop and paint it. And then there is this MNC part, which I already explained and decided to get rid of, the sponsored billboards. So this is the existing system model. And my intervention comes over here. So I decided to come up with a regulatory approval system for street name boards. And this regulatory approval system will monitor the quality of name boards being installed in the city. So in my case, it will be Ahmedabad. So the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation, AMC, will be running this regulatory approval system. So whoever is gonna install their own self-advertising board or name board will need to seek for permission, will need to follow the guidelines being proposed by the regulatory approval system. So this regulatory approval system was my intervention, was my like my proposed solution, and this body will come up with a set of guidelines, which I have designed in coming slides. And these guidelines will be distributed among all the stakeholders so that they can refer to it and design the signboard accordingly. And thereby we can enhance the quality of the name boards and self-advertisements, whatever is being instructed. So now I started thinking how I can come up with these guidelines. These guidelines should obviously improve the standard, the quality of the urban street system, but at the same time, it shouldn't restrict the freedom of the stakeholder. It shouldn't restrict people's freedom to design, people's freedom to express their branding. So that was the next stage, to identify the limit of intervention and what to propose, what not to propose, those kind of things. So I basically started by understanding the self-advertising aspect in depth. And I identified there were three major types of self-advertisements, or types of stakeholders, or types of places where this self-advertisements are seen. First one was this small shops. In case of Ahmedabad, especially, or in general in any street of India, these are majority. This comes as majority with small shops with small name boards. And then comes this huge buildings, huge commercial buildings, small, can be malls or showrooms or shopping complexes or whatever. And then we have this residential complex, institute complex, campuses, and worship places and these kind of things. So obviously, the first intervention was on this small shops aspect, being this as the major player in this scenario. So they contribute mostly to the urban street traffic system. So I further classified this into two: shops with street-facing entry and shops without street-facing entry. And I identified the scenario, existing scenario, what all potentials are there, and what all things are limiting. Then I started developing the guidelines. So the guidelines had different aspects to consider. First one was the size and position of the self-advertisements. The next thing will obviously be the content being portrayed in the self-advertising blog. And then the design or layout, and then what I can recommend to them, and the materials being used, and the special purpose when it comes to offer or sales or those kind of things. So these were different aspects which I considered while coming up with the guidelines. So this itself will be the chapters for the guidelines being published. So the first aspect, which is size and positioning, I tried out this figure ground analysis kind of a method where I could see that we can see the clutter over here, the formation of clutter. Here, this yellow marked areas are where you can see this urban graphics, the self signage, the proper graphics, and the gray will be the build space or the building where you can see. So as you can see, the whole facade, half of the facade is being hidden by this street graphics and still forming a lot of confusions. Like over here, if you see, it's on the first floor parapet. Which shop it belongs to, whether it belongs to ground floor or whether it belongs to first floor, it causes a lot of confusion. So there were a lot of problems like this. So I basically tried to identify those. And I came up with a set of solutions by restricting the height, by restricting the width, those kind of things. And I generalized in my context, in that stretch, I generalized the buildings into two sets, one with sloped roof in front, and the others with a flat roof. We'll be hanging the self-image on the parapet. Here they will be having eaves to hold on. And then I came up with a set of guidelines to where to place, how to place, what not to do. And in detail, I came up with a set of guidelines. Another thing was the content. So the content was again, different people show different contents. Someone will have their own logo. Someone might have their sponsor's name. Someone will have to show the brands they are offering. Someone will not have any of this. They will just have the shop name. And most of them will have the street name on the bottom. So I try to identify what all contents are being portrayed in the existing street system. And I try to prioritize things. or I proposed a hierarchy of information. Which information is most important and which is least important? And then comes this design and layout aspect. Obviously, it's being designed by millions of designers across the country who are professionally qualified or not qualified. And there are different set of requirements from client side. So all these things were there. Then again, I tried to identify different aspects of the design as color, text, layout, graphic elements. And I tried to come up with a proposed solution which could accommodate a wider range of designs. If I come up with one particular design and tell them they should follow this, it's not possible in this scenario because it's a public project and it's not possible. So I will have to come up with a solution which can accommodate a wider range of design solutions. So this is the final booklet which I came up with as a publication design thing. So this, I will just quickly run through this. This is the introduction pages of the guideline book, the need, and who should use these guidelines. These things will be there, and the categories. And for now, I have addressed only category A. The rest are still remaining. So within the category, these were the different chapters. The first one was size of signage. Second one was positioning of signage. And then the integration with the building, integration with the architecture, and then the design and layout. So as you can see, size will be shown like this. The positioning will be shown like this with do's and don'ts. Again, alignment, how to align, vertically how to align, horizontally how to align, and what are the do's and don'ts. And then again, the integration with building on ground floor and first floor, how does it vary? And yeah, these were different kind of things. And I came up with a mandatory thing, which is basically this strip. This strip, they will have to follow irrespective of their design. So this will be a mandatory footer for all these signages. And for this also, I have given two different options. One will be black and the other one will be white. This I choose black or white so that whatever their branding color is, this black or white won't influence much. So the recommended typeface for this footer, bottom footer, and then the types of layout. This is one type. I'm not explaining it in detail because it mostly comes from this graphic aspect. This is another type. This is another type. Basically, my proposition is that these three, the combination of these three options can accommodate the wider range of freedom, like the wider range of designs, which will not restrict the freedom of the designer to design whatever they want. It's still having a kind of freedom. And then I proposed a set of recommendations which are not strictly to be followed, but these recommendations will kind of educate the clients, educate the designers, the local designers, or educate the shop owners itself how they can come up with a better design. And these recommendations are kind of that educating part. This will address that educating part about the basic design aspects. So like here I'll be showing, if you show it like this, it might form a lot of clutter. So it's better to show it like this. So this is how we will educate. We will show them the right thing and the wrong thing. Like over here, if you show them too much of gradient and bright colors, it'll be difficult to reach. So better you show it like this. When we show two examples, do and don't, people can easily understand the thing and they will follow the better thing. So this in terms of color also, use high contrast colors. I will show the right thing and the wrong thing. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. So hereby I conclude my slides, my presentation. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Lijith, for the wonderful presentation. So the floor is now open for questions and discussion as well. So if anybody has any question or any comment on the topic, or if they want to share their own experiences regarding the same, then please feel free to do so. You can either just unmute yourself and ask, or you can post a question in the chat box, whichever is you're more comfortable. So yeah, if there's any question, then please feel free to ask. Do I see your question in the chat? Okay, so I think in the meantime, let me just ask with the question, like start with the question first. So
Yeah.
the like you started with the ideation that that you want to sort of get rid of the sponsor billboards, right?
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
my question in that case would be like, what is the uh, like if you could just give a bit of insight, like what is the current motivation for shop owners to go for the sponsored billboard, and how would you propose that we tackle that sort of a motivation to convince them to get rid of those sponsors?
Yeah. That particular decision of that part was very crucial, especially as you said. Right now, what happens is the sponsors will do it for free. They will provide the signage for free to the shop owners. So for shop owners, it's good because they don't have to invest on the shop signage part. They can easily get a benefit of 4,000, 3,000, 4,000. And these sponsors, what they are doing is they will be designing it from, they'll be having their own in-house printing agents, printing spaces like printing shops or whatever. Those will be in-house, and they will be printing it from some places, some random places, and they will be transporting it to your city. This is what's happening in the current scenario. Obviously, it's difficult to convince people because they are kind of losing their opportunity. Like they will have to invest their own. But at the same time, when we look at it from a law perspective, the legal perspective, we can see that in my case, the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation already have a set of regulations, already have a set of rules for this urban graphic system. So in which they are not restricting or regulating or charging any tax for the self signages. So that clearly defines what is a self signage. Self signage needs to be a signage which adverts or which showcases the shop itself. Whatever service the shop is offering or the name of the shop only should be there. But what happens over here is that portion comes only on the 10% of the strip, and the rest 90% goes for a commercial hoarding, commercial advertisement, which is a taxable entity.
Okay.
So it happens at kind of a loophole or kind of an intersection. So this obviously will be a bold decision, and which might be kind of difficult when we think it from a practical sense. But by taking the freedom of a hypothetical design and looking at the good cause, it was a bold decision which was taken.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for the answer. So yeah, if there's any participant who would want to ask a question, then please feel free to do so. In the meantime, I think till we are getting a question, Lijith, if there's like any, I think, like in hindsight, one because now you are sort of done with the trade. So is there any sort of comment or point that you feel that should have been addressed more, or that you might have considered during the process that now you have been able to recognize now? If you could just talk about that, and in the meantime, let's just see if we get any questions from the audience.
Sure, sure. So one such aspect was this design aspect, this design deliverable part or the design guideline part. So where I have shown this 2-3 different types of design options. I can show it over here, I guess. Yeah, this part. I felt like here I have to give them the freedom. I have to give the designers the freedom to design whatever they want. At the same time, I have to restrict or I have to regulate the quality of the billboard being designed. So here what I did is I came with 3 different options which can accommodate a wider range of designs. But in the end, what might happen is this itself can at some point accommodate, what do we say, can accommodate bad designs as well, or the poor quality designs. So I felt like it's little more broader, or the options which I've given accommodates a lot more than, it's not kind of restricting. I was trying to respect the freedom of the designers, but in the end, it might be used from the other side as well. So now I feel like I should have restricted it a little more, or the design should have been restricted a little more. That was something. For this, obviously, a thorough study is required. A very immense study, intense study is required by studying all these graphic aspects. Here, the limitations were there. But I believe that if a whole team, members, an official team come up with a proper study and study, maybe we can propose good solutions, balancing the freedom and.
So in the meantime, I think we have Mehta sir has just sent in his regards in the chat box. It's good to see. Just it was an excellent presentation.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes. So I think we have we can take one last question. So if there's any participant who wants to ask, then please feel free to do so. You can either post it in the chat box. You can just unmute yourself and ask.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, Lijith.
Hi, Aditya.
Yeah. So I had a question, while you gave an example of Lucknow where the heritage was strong, the features are strong, so it gives a strong background, and it talks about the heritage of that place. But what about places where the architecture is not that strong, and how do you convey through the visual system about that place? Or does it become very still it becomes very commercial of how the boards are even after the better design of the boards?
It's actually when we have a strong heritage context or strong context, it's easy to convince people, and it's easy for the authorities also to come up with some interventions. So when there is this backup of the heritage or whatever context it is. But when it comes to a general city like Ahmedabad obviously have a heritage part, but I am not addressing that heritage part of the city. So when it comes to a general city part, that is where this challenge comes. How to come up with a strong guideline, or how to intervene their freedom of expressing. So it is always a discussion. It's always a balance between this freedom of expression and the quality of space. So even in terms of architecture, if you see, we have a lot of restrictions, right? We have this setback restriction. We have this height restriction. Those kind of things are there. People are convinced when it comes to this architecture and those restrictions, because they know that it's for the betterment of the society and it's enforced by a law. So people are forced to, they are convinced. So similarly, whenever we are coming up with some graphic intervention, some intervention on whatever aspect, here it is graphic, we basically need to convince people about the benefits of this thing. So we will have to convince them that if we improvise our self-signages, or if we improvise our graphics, it in turn will improvise the imagery of the city, which in turn will again will result in betterment of their own space, which will again add on to their own business. So that part will have to convince people by showing them what benefits they are going to get.
Right.
Okay. Thank you, Aditya, for the question, and thank you, Lijith, for the wonderful answer. I think with this we can bring the webinar to a close. It's already we're very close to 11. So I thank Lijith for taking out time and for presenting his ideas to us. I think it was a very well explained and detailed research study, as well as the presentation was very well made. I also thank all the participants for taking out time for us today and for attending the webinar. I think with this, I can bring the webinar to a close. Please have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Tushar. Thank you, all of you.